Hello, General Hospital today will review. Willow had orchestrated a wicked endgame, a meticulously layered deception that she believed would secure her ultimate victory. Cloaked in sweetness, she masked her sinister calculations beneath a facade of innocence and grief. The moment she was declared innocent in the attempted murder of Drew Kane, she wasted no time erasing all lingering suspicion. Yet the truth was far darker. Not once, but twice, she had taken aim at the man who had once been her husband. In her twisted narrative, Drew was the villain, controlling, manipulative, the one who shattered her relationships and robbed her of custody over Wiley and Amelia. But mere bullets weren't enough. To guarantee Drew would never expose her or reclaim control, Willow took a final terrifying step. She injected a mysterious substance into the base of his neck, locking him inside his own body, fully conscious, yet unable to speak, move, or resist. Now confined to a hospital bed, Drew lay like a statue of agony, his mind trapped behind motionless eyes. And Willow, ever the performer, stepped into the role of a grieving wife, weaving herself deeper into public sympathy. She visited his bedside daily, leaning in close, whispering poison into his ears, venomous confessions laced with satisfaction. To the world, she was devoted and heartbroken. To Drew, she was the very architect of his suffering. Her every word became a taunt, every glance a twisted assertion of power. In her hand, she held a symbolic key, not just to the locked bedroom where Drew was now resided, but to the truth she kept hidden, and to the fates of those who unknowingly danced to her tune. Willow believed she controlled everything and everyone. Drew's body was silent. Alexis, she presumed, could be manipulated. And Scout, sweet young Scout, was dismissed as too innocent, too naive to grasp the darkness unraveling before her eyes. But in this, Willow made her gravest miscalculation. Scout had seen far more than Willow knew. She had heard the strange thud in the hallway the night Drew collapsed. She had caught the brief flickering glow of light beneath her father's bedroom door at an hour when the house should have been dark and still. And almost chillingly, she had witnessed the precise moment when Drew's body buckled, not from heartbreak, but from something more immediate and deliberate. Scout, silent and wary, kept her observations to herself at first, but the unease grew into certainty. What she had witnessed was no accident. It was an attack. Choosing caution over impulse, Scout turned to the one person she could trust above all others, Alexis. In hushed tones, with the trembling bravery of someone who understood the weight of their words, Scout recounted what she had seen. Alexis listened, each word chiseling away at her composure. The color drained from her face as realization took hold. The puzzle pieces, Willow's odd behavior, Drew's sudden condition, the eerie quiet that followed his return now fell into place with harrowing clarity. The chilling truth left her reeling. She had come perilously close to becoming a pawn in Willow's grotesque scheme. The final blow came when Alexis recalled her recent encounter with Willow. The young woman had arrived at her office, cloaked in fragility, requesting legal representation for an impending custody hearing. She spoke of redemption, of hope, of justice. But when Alexis hesitated, Willow revealed her true nature, not with fury, but with cold calculation. She threatened to sever Scout from her life entirely unless Alexis agreed to take the case. It was no longer a legal plea. It was emotional blackmail, a blade held to the throat of a maternal love. For Alexis, the betrayal was paralyzing. She had long prided herself on the discernment, her ability to see through masks. Yet here she was, nearly fooled by a woman who had to destroy not just a man, but an entire family. In that moment, her heartbreak twisted into resolve. She would not allow a predator to wield her daughter's future as a weapon. And most of all, she would not let Scout carry the burden of that truth alone. The time had come to expose Willow's deception and finally to hold her accountable. Despite her effort to project composure, Alexis could not conceal the storm of confusion and dread churning beneath the surface. Years of legal battles and personal losses had taught her how to appear unshakable, yet this moment pierced through every layer of armor she had built. She stood suspended between two unbearable obligations, each demanding a sacrifice that felt morally devastating.
On one side was Scout, a child who had already endured more upheaval than anyone her age should ever face. A child Alexis wanted desperately to shield from further pain, fear, and guilt. On the other side was justice itself. Fragile and easily corrupted when manipulated by those who understood how to weaponize trust, affection, and silence. Alexis felt the weight of history pressing down on her. aware that one wrong choice would echo for the rest of Scout's life. For a brief terrifying moment, she considered surrendering, rationalizing that protecting Scout from immediate harm might justify a compromise with the truth. That moment shattered the instant Scout stepped forward. There was no hesitation in her posture, no tremor in her resolve. She did not cry, did not plead, did not look to Alexis for reassurance. Instead, she stood firmly on her own conviction and laid bare the truth Willow had so carefully buried. Scout spoke with clarity far beyond her years, recounting what she had heard in the stillness of night, what she had seen when shadows moved where they should not have, and what she had sensed in her father's sudden collapse. Her words carried a quiet certainty that left no room for doubt. This was not imagination, not fear, not confusion. It was a testimony shaped by observation and instinct delivered with a calm that made it impossible to dismiss. In that instant, the illusion Willow had constructed unraveled completely. Willow froze as the realization struck her. The confidence she had worn like a second skin vanished, replaced by a hollow stillness that betrayed the collapse of every calculation she had made. There was no longer a path to maneuver, no strategy left to deploy. The child she had underestimated, manipulated, and threatened had become the one force she could not control. Scout was no longer collateral in Willow's game, but the axis on which everything turned. The silence that followed was heavier than any accusation, exposing Willow not as a victim or a survivor, but as someone cornered by her own cruelty. The investigation was reopened with renewed urgency, and what once appeared fragmented and inconclusive began to align with unsettling precision. Medical records that had raised unanswered questions were re-examined, timelines reconstructed, and inconsistencies illuminated under the weight of Scout's account. Each detail reinforced the same conclusion, stripping away doubt piece by piece until the full scope of Willow's actions stood undeniable. Alexis, resolute now, refused to lend her name or her skills to shielding someone who had exploited her compassion. She turned over every document, every note, every recollection to the authorities, determined that the truth would no longer be buried beneath manipulation and fear. Michael, who had initially struggled to reconcile the accusations with the woman he believed he knew, was forced to confront a reality he could no longer deny. The evidence, the testimony, and the gravity of Scout's courage dismantled his remaining defenses. What emerged was a painful understanding that love had blinded him to something irreparable. Willow had crossed a line that could never be erased, and the consequences were no longer avoidable. In the aftermath, Alexis made her position unyielding. Her priority was no longer appeasement or negotiation, but protection. She committed herself fully to ensuring that Scout and Danny would grow up in a space defined by safety and honesty, free from those who twisted affection into control. The truth once spoken could not be silenced again, and for the first time since the nightmare began, justice was no longer a distant hope but an unavoidable reckoning. Willow was arrested in silence, offering no resistance, as if she had finally understood that the game was over. There was no outrage, no protest, only the stillness of someone who had reached the end of their illusions. Her quiet surrender was not a gesture of remorse, but an acknowledgement that every thread she had carefully spun had unraveled. Meanwhile, Drew, once locked in his own body, began to show signs of recovery, thanks to a new specialist from the WSB with expertise in neural rehabilitation. Subtle yet undeniable progress emerged. His eyes, once filled with silent fury and despair, now shimmered with a quiet hope. The fire within him had not gone out, it had merely been waiting for the moment to return. He knew now that his survival hadn't been due to luck or divine intervention, but because of his daughter Scout. The very child he once thought needed his protection had in the end been the one to save him from death's grasp. The house that had once been soaked in fear and betrayal gradually transformed into a sanctuary. It became a home for Scout, Danny, and Alexis, a trio bound not by shared blood alone, but by lost courage, and the determination to rebuild. Together they began the long and quiet work of healing, redefining what it meant to be a family. With each passing day, they replaced silence with laughter, pain with purpose, and memory with meaning. Scout, still so young, had demonstrated a bravery beyond her years, unflinching, wise, and deeply human. Alexis, once exhausted by the weight of her past mistakes, found a renewed sense of purpose. She had rediscovered why she fought not just for justice but for the children who depended on her strength. And for herself, a woman reclaiming her voice after years of being pulled in every direction. The story of Willow would echo through Port Charles for years to come, a chilling reminder of how dangerous manipulative compassion could be, and of how easily truth could be twisted by those skilled in playing victim. But more than that, it would stand as a tribute to those who refused to stay silent. No matter how terrifying the truth, there are always hearts brave enough to face it. Scout became a symbol of awakening, proof that even the smallest voices could dismantle the most powerful lies. Willow's punishment wasn't just for the harm she caused, but for daring to believe that justice could be permanently evaded. Yet in Port Charles, no matter how long it takes, justice always arrives. Right on time.